Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Stegy again, back with yet another Disney Lorcana video. And today's card of the day video isn't necessarily just going to be a single card. Today's theme is actually going to be a family of the day, specifically the Madrigal family from Encanto. And I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. I've only seen the movie once and I can't quite remember how it's said, but I'm going to say like Madrigal. There's a few cards, right? And I definitely want to talk about them because I think they're really strong. Several of them are really good by themselves. A lot of them are really good together. I think this is actually a very good tribal deck. What I mean by tribal is something like hero or princess or villain, right? Those cards have like themes built around them. You know, like princess, for example, has been around since set 1 with Moana. You just ready up all your other princess characters when she quests. So I think the Madrigal family is actually really strong. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about, you know, the cards here. I'm going to give my thoughts on each one and we'll kind of go from there. First up, I do want to talk about Felix Madrigal. Now, Felix Madrigal is a 3-cost inkable character in Amber. He has 2 strength, 4 willpower, and he quests for 2 lore. He has no other abilities, right? He's kind of like the Piglet. I think the Piglet we got in, I think the second set, who has the exact same stats, right? But this guy is a Madrigal, and there are, you know, a couple cards that do interact with your Madrigal family cards, and that would make him better. For example, there is a card that will allow him to quest for 1 more, so he could quest for 3. So he's not terrible, right? Absolutely not terrible. If you're trying to gain lore, I think he's, you know, a solid inclusion because, again, he could quest for 3 lore. But, you know, he's just vanilla, you know, there's nothing else going on. Not terrible, right? He's absolutely not terrible. But next up, and then also in the 3-cost slot, we have Julieta Madrigal. She is a 3-cost inkable character in Amber with 1 strength, 4 willpower, and she does quest for 1 lore. Now her ability is called Signature Recipe, and it says when you play this character, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. If you remove damage this way, you may draw a card. So she's already kind of like a mini Rapunzel from the first set. Yeah, you don't get to draw up to, you know, like 2 cards or up to 3 cards or whatever, but you still get to draw a card. And that's pretty good, right? She does replace herself and you're able to heal a little bit of damage off of one of your other characters. She's uncommon, right? And Felix was also uncommon as well. So very affordable. I think she's absolutely fantastic though. Definitely a very budget alternative to Rapunzel. If you're unable to get that card, the Rapunzel, you can play Julieta instead. Yeah, she doesn't quest for as much and her willpower is a little less. Doesn't draw as many cards, but still better than nothing. And with a Madrigal family deck, very good. I think she's absolutely very good. Very, very solid card. Next up, actually, probably a good cornerstone of a Madrigal family deck is, of course, Mirabelle. Mirabelle Madrigal. Now, this one is the 5-cost Mirabelle, who has 3 strength, 5 willpower, and she quests for 2 lore. She has support as a keyword, and, you know, that's pretty solid. And her ability is called Saving the Miracle. Whenever this character quests, your other Madrigal characters get +1 lore this turn. So first of all, she has 2 lore herself, and she is a super rare. I should mention she is a super rare. So when she quests, you're going to get 2 lore. Then with her support keyword, you can give support to one of your other characters. You know, you can use that character as a challenge, right? And they will get, you know, buffed by 3 strength, which is pretty good. But if you don't want to challenge, then your other Madrigal characters will gain that extra 1 lore, and so then most of them are going to be questing for 2, maybe even 3 lore. And when you start questing with her on turn 6, you're probably going to have other characters in play. That's going to be a huge lore swing, right? Really like this character. She's really, really good. Definitely, if you have a lot of Madrigal characters in play, you got to play her, right? You just got to play her. You know, combined with Felix, you get 2 lore off of Mirabelle, and then Felix himself will quest for 3 lore because he has 2 already. Even like Julieta would quest for 2 lore. We'll see there's another Mirabelle that only has 1 lore, but she'll quest for 2. There's a Dolores with 2 lore. She can quest, you know, for 3 essentially with this Mirabelle. And then we have Camilo or Camelo, I'm not sure how you say his name, but he's able to get 2 lore at the start of your turn, and then he can quest and then plus this Mirabelle, that'd be 4 lore, right? That's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. That's a good way to get a bunch of lore quickly, and they have solid stats, right? So you might be thinking, well, I mean, there is like an Amethyst Amber kind of aggro style deck that's meant to win like really quickly, but the stats on that deck is kind of low, and you don't really have a lot of like that card draw. But with stuff like Dolores, right, you get that card draw. Julieta, you get that card draw. You get those solid stats in play, and then you have, you know, this Mirabelle who's able just to buff your other characters, and then get a whole bunch of lore by questing. I really like her. I think she's really solid, and obviously she's like a main point in, you know, that sort of like Madrigal family deck, right? Outside of that, she's just okay, but in the Madrigal family deck, the tribal deck, absolutely we want to be playing this card. And we do have another Mirabelle, at least at the time of this recording. This one is simply a 2-cost Amber character. I should mention that the other Mirabelle was also Amber. Everything so far has been Amber, but this Mirabelle is a 2-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 2 willpower, quest for 1 lore, and she just has support. Just normal support. She's a common, so it's like, okay, right? But she is supporting her family, right? I mean, you can always play Louisa, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. She's an Amethyst Rush character, and then quest with Mirabelle and give that her 2 strength to Louisa, right? And that's probably kind of what you're supposed to do, right? It's kind of like the theme there, but you know, it's something, right? So she's okay, right? If we get a shift target, right? If we do have a shift to Mirabelle, which some people have been talking about, that we might, right? We might, then this would make, you know, this would be a good target, but we'll see. We don't know right now. Next up, another theme. So in Amber, it's not a character, but it's an action, and it's Bruno's Return. And this is a 2-cost uninkable action, and it simply says return a character card from your discard to your hand, then remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. So it's okay, right? It fits the theme that you're getting your family members back. It's recursion. It is kind of card draw. You're not drawing a card from your deck per se, but you're just getting a character from your discard that you're able to then replay if you need to. And you can heal a character as well. It's uncommon. It's okay. If you're really trying to keep all your Madrigal family members on the board, this is useful. But for 1 more ink, you could also just play Part of Your World, which is a song, and have a character sing it and then get a character back that way. 1 step further, you could play Hades, who's 4 ink. You also get a character back, but you also get a body on the field. So, you know, I don't know. I think if you're really trying to get a lot of these characters in play, then yes. I mean, it is a cheap cost at only 2. So again, it is kind of card draw, but you know, I don't know. I'm not crazy about it, but I see it having a place. I'd have to play it a bit more, right? I mean, I'll not play a bit more, but I have to play with it, you know, in a deck to see how I feel about it. But, you know, just from experience and stuff, I mean, Part of Your World's not really played a lot. And honestly, Hades is played more because probably by that point when you play Hades, you're going to have characters in the discard pile. You know, I'd rather have the body in play, you know, and get a character back at 4 uninkable ink than pay 2 uninkable ink to get a character back. That's how I feel about it. I'm just kind of, I prefer Hades. Our next card is actually going to be Look at This Family. This is a 7-cost inkable action song card, but it's unique. It's called Sing Together 7. And what this is a new thing for set 4. And Sing Together means any number of your or your teammates' characters with a total cost of 7 or more may exert to sing this card for free, right? This wording probably tells us that there's probably going to be some sort of like multiplayer format, maybe an official like supported multiplayer format, but because it might be like 2v2. And if that's the case, then, you know, you could play this and be like, hey, can I exert your, you know, 3-cost character to help, you know, sing this or whatever, right? That could be very cool, right? Now, 7 cost isn't necessarily unreasonable in a lot of decks, and there is an Ariel coming out in the new set who has Singer 7 herself, which means she can sing cards that cost 7, you know, or less just by herself, and that's pretty good, right? So she could sing this card by herself. But this is probably meant thematically to have, you know, several of your Madrigal family characters in play sing this song. So let's talk about what it does, though. What it does is that you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may reveal up to 2 character cards and then put them into your hand, and then you put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. It's a rare, right? It's gonna be, probably easy to obtain. It's kind of like a buffed up version of Be Our Guest. But I mean, Be Our Guest is 2 ink. You look at top 4 and only choose 1. But this one is 7 ink, which is like over 3 times as much. You look at 1 extra card and you get 1 extra card. It does replace itself and then some, so it is kind of card draw. You're probably going to hit 2 characters in the top 5 cards of your deck. That could be pretty useful. I mean, if you're playing Amber, you could just play that new Rapunzel and the new Ariel and have her sing it. But odds are, again, you'll probably have characters in play who are able to sing this, and you could just put a bunch of characters on the board. I do like this card though. I think it's really solid. Is it a lot? Yeah, but I think you're probably going to have a deck catered to being able to play this card, right? That's going to be like the new Ariel, or you're just going to have a bunch of characters in play who can just exert themselves to play this, right? So, I mean, even the 3-drop Ariel counts as a Singer 5, right? So you only need 2 more. Like you would need 2 1-drop characters, or 1 2-cost character or something to sing this. So, but I like it. It's card draw. You get characters. It's good. I think it's good. Finally, in Amber, we have this is our last Amber Madrigal family themed card, and that is Miracle Candle. This is a 2-cost inkable item card, and it says banish this item. If you have 3 or more characters in play, gain 2 lore, and remove up to 2 damage from chosen location. So, gotta keep your location safe. But while that's fine, right? While removing damage is fine, and that can definitely help in a lot of cases, especially with like high willpower locations, gaining 2 lore just instantly without your opponent having really any say on your turn is really, really good, right? Your opponent's gonna have to remove this item somehow with like a Benja, or I mean even something like Befuddle would make you pick it up. But as long as you have 3 characters in play, you can just pay 2 ink, put this card down, and then just banish it immediately and gain 2 lore. So it's a really good way to gain instant lore. And because a lot of the other Madrigal family cards are in Amethyst, you're probably also going to be playing Goat, right? The Merlin Goat, who when played gets you 1 lore. So between the Goat and this card, you have a way to gain 3 lore instantly. Just right off the bat, 3 lore, it's just added to your total. And then of course, if the Goat is banished, you get 1 additional lore. So you can kind of think of the Goat as having 2 lore. That's like 4 lore right there. That's quite a bit. What is that, 1/5 of your total between these just 2 cards just by playing them? I really like this card. It is a rare. I think it's going to be good even outside of a Madrigal family deck, because as long as you have 3 characters in play, you're getting 2 lore. This is a good way to end the game. Also, if you have a way to like recur items from your discard, so say Tamatoa, for example, you could just keep gaining this extra lore. Just quest with Tamatoa, put this card back into play, and as long as you have 2 other characters in play, just banish it again, get 2 more lore, right? And just do that every turn. Pretty good, right? Pretty good. And it actually makes cards like If It's Not Baroque from the first set, which is like never played, right? And that's an action card, an uninkable action card for 3 ink, and it lets you get an item back from your discard pile into your hand. And now with stuff like Miracle Candle, you want to play those items again, right? You want to put those cards into play and get that lore. And this is great. I think this is a fantastic card. Going to be very good in like Amethyst, Amber, like aggro decks. Those are already kind of surprisingly strong. It can have like really good starts, but this is just a really good finisher. I absolutely love this, especially in aggro decks. Fits the theme. I think this is a great card. I think it's a great card. All right, next up, that's all our Amber cards right now. I keep checking like my Twitter and stuff to see if anything else will like pop up, because it is after, the time when they usually reveal a card. And they haven't really revealed one so far for today, I suppose. And it's, there's no Madrigal family. So I'm just checking, right? But anyway, we're moving on to Amethyst, and we have Bruno Madrigal. Bruno is a 5-cost uninkable character with 4 strength, 5 willpower, and he does quest for 1 lore. His ability is called If It Was Your Vision. It's called It Was Your Vision. When you play this character, chosen character gains. When this character is banished in a challenge, you may return this card to your hand this turn. Love it. It's kind of like a mini Dr. Facilier from the first set, right? Where whenever one of your characters, challenges something and is banished, you can return it to your hand, right? I think it goes both ways. I'm not sure. I think it's only during your turn though. But what I really love about this card, Bruno here, is you can combine it with, say, the Fox, right? You play Fox. You already have Fox in play. You have Fox in play, then you play Bruno. Bruno targets the Fox. The Fox, challenges something, goes back to your hand. Your next turn, you can play Fox, pick up Bruno, and provided you have enough ink, you could play Bruno and then target Fox, and then Fox challenges something and then goes right back to your hand. Love that interaction. Absolutely love it. I think that's really strong. So provided you have about 8 ink, you could keep doing that. Or, if Fox survives the turn it challenges, you could just play Bruno in the following turn, whatever, right? But it's a good bounce strategy. And it's just good. It's a good way to protect all of your characters, right? You're able to do challenges if you need to and just get that character right back. He has really good stats, but it's a shame he only quests for 1. But the new, Mirabelle we talked about, the 5-cost Mirabelle would give him an additional 1 lore, which then he would quest for 2, and that's probably why he only has the 1, I would imagine, because you're supposed to pair him with that Mirabelle, and he's not like too strong, He's a rare, so not too hard to obtain. I like him though. It's basically like, hey, just plop him down, turn 5 onward, do a challenge, get your character back. It's safe, it keeps your character safe. Yeah, you don't have it on the board anymore, but at least it's not in your discard pile. But I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's really solid. I think he's a solid card. Cool art too. Really cool art. All right, next up is Camelo Madrigal. Camelo is a 4-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 5 willpower, and he quests for 1 lore. He's also uncommon. I should probably mention that now. He's very unique because he's kind of like Maui's Fishhook, where you kind of have you can choose, right? You have 2 abilities. So at the start of your turn, you can choose one of these 2 abilities. You may either give him 1 extra lore, so he'll quest for 2 lore instead of 1, or you can give him Challenger +2. So that essentially would turn him into a 4 strength, 5 willpower character, for only 4 ink, which is pretty solid, right? If you need the challenge, right, he's definitely one of those cards for it. You could play him on your turn 4. Turn 5, if you need the challenge, give him the challenger, right? Let him challenge. If he survives, fantastic. Then you play Julieta, heal that damage, draw a card. There you go, right? Nice little combo right there. Or your opponent doesn't have anything exerted, or you feel pretty safe, give him that 1 extra lore. So that way, on your turn, he can quest for 2 lore. With his 5 willpower, that's pretty good. He's probably going to stick around. That allows him to survive a strike, a challenge essentially from the Fox, and even Goat can't take him out, but he can't take those cards out in return either, so take that as you will. But I like the versatility a lot. I really do. I think depending what your opponent's doing, I think going for an aggressive strategy, give him Challenger, right? If they're being more peaceful or whatever, like just trying to build up a board, race him with lore, get that extra lore. So I like him, and he's inkable too. A lot of these cards are inkable, so if you don't need them, throw them into your inkwell. Solid card. I do want to clarify, I think I accidentally said earlier, I'm not sure, I was recording this a few times, I think I said he gets 2 extra lore, but it's only 1. So, but I corrected that now. He only gets 1 extra lore at the start of your turn, when he quests. All right, next up is Dolores Madrigal. Now, Dolores is a 4-cost inkable character with 3 strength, 3 willpower, and she quests for 2 lore. Her ability is called Magical Informant. When you play this character, if an opponent has an exerted character in play, you may draw a card. And she's also only a common. So she's kind of like our 3-cost Maleficent from the first set. She has 1 more strength though, 1 more willpower, and she quests for 1 more lore. The trade-off is, if your opponent doesn't have an exerted character in play, you don't get to draw that card. So whereas with Maleficent, for 1 less strength, willpower, and lore, you guarantee to get that card draw. I don't know. I think in the early / mid game, your opponent's probably going to be questing and challenging a lot more. So playing her, I think it's going to be very beneficial. She has okay stats, right? She's able to trade with stuff like Fox and Rabbit. And she gets you that extra that card draw, right? And then she can also quest for 2 lore, which is really good. Later on, some opponents might just, if you're in top deck mode, or they had cleared the board, right? Say they had played Be Prepared, and then on your turn, your opponent's not going to have any exerted characters, or maybe they just played one and it's not exerted. She's only going to quest for 2, right? I mean, you're going to play her and she's not going to do anything. Whereas if you had Maleficent, you could at least draw a card. So that's something to consider, right? It is something to consider. Also, I mean, she comes out the turn after Maleficent, so like on turn 3 you can play Maleficent, and on your turn 4 Maleficent could sing Friends on the Other Side, which would get you like a total of 3 cards, from these 2, whereas Dolores only gets you the 1. So I mean, it doesn't say you can't play both, right? And she does quest for 3 with the new Mirabelle. So it's one of those, take it as you will, but I do like her. I think she's actually really solid. I think she's one of the cards that could be featured outside of just like a family Madrigal oriented deck because of the card draw, because of her stats, questing for that 2 lore. So I think we'll see, right? I think we'll see it, if she finds a home, but my guess is I think she will. I think she will find a place because card draw is always really good. All right, next up is Isabella Madrigal. Now, this is a 5-cost inkable character with 3 strength, 4 willpower, and she quests for 1 lore. But she's stacked. She has like 2.5 abilities. 1, she has evasive. Already really good. Okay. First one is, her first ability is called Ladies First. During your turn, if no other characters has quested this turn, this character gets +3 lore. Okay, so she can quest for 4 lore, provided that no other characters have quested. Her other ability is called Leave It to Me. Whenever this character quests, your other characters can't quest for the rest of the turn. I mean, you can quest for 4 lore, pretty safely, starting on turn 6 or so, and she can help you kind of finish out a game. You get a bunch of lore with your other characters, then you can just play Isabella, and quest for 4 lore. She's really good to play on like an empty board. Like if your opponent has played, say, Be Prepared, you could play then Isabella, right? And then on your next turn, you can just quest for 4 lore, but odds are your opponent's going to take out Isabella with like Madame Medusa or Tremaine or something. But still, the option is there, right? But it could also be like a theme where like she's the one questing and like going for the win condition, whereas like your other characters are like challenging and singing songs and things like that. So that's something to consider as well. I don't know. Like, I mean, she works well with when also paired with like Sapphire with Lucky Dime. You could play Lucky Dime, target her. She, as long as she, if no one else has quested, she's gonna sit there with 4 lore. So you get the 4 lore from the Lucky Dime, then you can quest with her, get 4 more lore. Pretty good, right? That's pretty good, but you might as well just play Belle, honestly, for that same effect. I don't know actually how I feel about this card. I do like her. I think she's probably good for like finishing out a game. I think she's really good tech against stuff like Be Prepared, where if your opponent does clear the board, you can just play her and maybe like 1 or 2 other characters. That way she's safe from stuff like Lady Tremaine, but she would get banished to Madame Medusa. So I don't know. 4 lore is a lot, right? 4 lore on a 5-cost character, an inkable character with evasive, is really, really strong. So she's only a rare as well, so affordable, easy to get. We'll see though. We'll see if she's played. I'm on the fence with this one. She's one of the few where I'm like, like Dolores, I think Dolores would see play, right? Isabella, I don't know. I think it's better to just quest with all of your other characters than to just quest with 1. But who knows, right? Who knows what kind of, we might see like a really interesting control strategy. Maybe there's a bounce strategy with like Amethyst and Emerald, and you're just bouncing all of your opponent's characters, but just questing with Isabella to keep her safe. Who knows, right? Who knows? All right, next up we have Louisa Madrigal. Now, Louisa is a 4-cost uninkable character with 4 strength, 3 willpower, and she does quest for 1 lore. And she has Rush, and that's it, just Rush. She's just like Rafiki from the first set, but with 1 more strength and 1 more ink. What's nice though is that she doesn't have like Reckless or anything, so she can come down and challenge something, but if she survives, she is able to quest on your following turn. And combined with the 5-cost Mirabelle, she can quest for 2, which is very respectable. I like her a lot. And why I really like her is that she's searchable with a card that, that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. But Abuela is able to search, the Grandma Madrigal can search any Madrigal characters out of your deck and put it on top so that you can draw them, on your next turn or whatever, however you draw a card. You can just have a couple copies of Luisa in your deck and just be able to fish her out with the Abuela. And I like that. I like that a lot. Her 4 strength is able to take out a lot of characters. She can even trade with something like Maui, provided Maui has taken at least 1 damage from something. But you could always just play the 2-cost Mirabelle and then quest with her, give that 2 strength to Luisa, and then challenge something for 6. So that's really strong. I do like her. I think she's a very solid common, especially in like the sort of Madrigal focused deck, right? But I mean, outside of that, I don't know. Like, do you really need an uninkable rusher with 4 strength? You might as well just play Fox, right? Fox is just infinitely better. It's inkable and it costs 1 less ink. Yeah, I mean, you're losing a character to your hand, but we've found out that that's actually really good. So, in a Madrigal family deck, I think she's really solid. I do like her a lot. Definitely in a couple copies at least. Can help take out locations and stuff as well. Okay, next up, we have Peppa Madrigal. Peppa is a 5-cost uninkable character with 1 strength, 5 willpower, and she quests for 1 lore. Her ability is called It Looks Like Rain, and it says, when you play this character, you may exert chosen opposing character. That character can't ready at the start of their next turn unless they're at a location. In most cases, a character is not going to be at a location, so like I wouldn't really worry about it. I don't think that's really going to be a thing. But sometimes, some characters are. Some characters are at a location, like the Queen's Castle, right? And you can't use this effect. But I would say, 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, it's going to work, right? And it's sort of like a mini Elsa freeze, the legendary Elsa from set 1, where you freeze 2 characters. Peppa's able to freeze 1. But it's like permanently locked down, right? So you could play her, and then on your following turn, challenge that exerted character with something like Luisa, right? If that's something you need to do. But we also have a lot of like challenge matters characters like Queen of Hearts and Ruby, Shere Khan and Ruby, the set 1 Aladdin, who's one of my favorite cards, Outlaw Aladdin, where if he challenges and banishes something, your opponent loses 2 lore and you gain 2 lore. That could be pretty good, right? If you have an Aladdin in play on like turn 4, turn 5, you'll play Peppa. Turn 6, you can shift your Aladdin, and then, challenge that character. So very interesting, right? It's just good. I think it's really good. Also stops an opponent's character from just questing, right? And that could just help you, seal the game. I think it's good. I think it's definitely at least a couple copies in a deck, which again, you can fish out with the Abuela. I think she's solid. She's only a rare, easy to obtain, but I think as a nice surprise tactic, I think she's really solid, right? I think she's fun. I think she's good. Now, I want to talk about our second to last character, and that's actually going to be Luisa again, but this Luisa is actually in Steel, which is very interesting because she's the only character from the family that's not in Amber or Amethyst, right? There are a couple cards in Emerald I want to talk about, but as far as characters go, she's the only one that's not in those colors. So very interesting. I wonder if we'll get any more. But regardless, this Luisa is a 3-cost inkable character with 2 strength, 4 willpower, and she quests for 1 lore. Now her ability is called I'm the Strong One, and it says while you have another character in play, this character gets +2 strength. Really good stats for cost. She would have a 4 strength, she's 4 strength, 4 willpower, and she quests for 1. That's pretty solid, right? Those are really, really good stats for her cost. And all you have to do is have another character in play. So it's not bad, right? It's interesting again that it's Steel and it's not in any of the other colors. So if you want to play her with like Amber, play with the other like Mirabelle and the Abuela, you're giving up on the really solid Amethyst cards like Bruno and Dolores and Peppa, who I talked about, right? So I don't know, right? But as by herself, I think she's fine, right? I think she's really good in draft, of course. The stats are good. Maybe in a weight set, because I think in a weight set, you would trigger her ability first when she's played, and then she would have, 4 strength, and then wait set would see that she has 4 strength, and you get to draw a card, if that's something you wanted to do. I don't know, very interesting, but she's inkable, solid stats, right? No complaints here. But finally, I want to talk about the cornerstone, the card that really makes the Madrigal family decks work, and that's this like Abuela Madrigal. I don't know her actual like official translation. The Abuela, the grandma from the movie, is a 3-cost uninkable character with 1 strength, 3 willpower. You can quest for 2 lore, and she has a fantastic ability, right? I love this ability. When you play her, you can search your deck, the whole deck, not the top 4. You search it for any character with the Madrigal like classification. You show it to your opponent, then you shuffle your deck, and you put that card you found on top of your deck. Yeah, it doesn't go into your hand, which kind of stinks, but we might see that in the future. But that means on your next turn, you can draw a card, and it's going to be that card you found, right? That's going to be really, really solid. I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, if your opponent is playing really aggressive, search for that 4-cost Louisa, right? Yeah, your opponent's going to know that you're going to have it, but that might change their mind, right? You're going to draw that card, it's going to help. What you could also do is just find a whole bunch of Abuelas, right? You don't have to even play her in the Madrigal family, centered deck. Just find a whole bunch of her, and you can just keep putting her into play. She does quest for 2 lore by herself, right? And she is able to sing Friends on the Other Side. You could just get a whole bunch of her into play and just keep gaining lore, keep questing. I love it, right? Well, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Way back in the day, right? And I just played like janky stuff. One of my favorite cards is called Giant Rat. And when Giant Rat was banished, or defeated or whatever, you could search your deck for like a certain character card or whatever. I would basically be able to find giant rats. I would just keep finding giant rats and keep putting them into play. My opponents would be like, why do you keep doing this? And I'm like, well, it stays. So you put them in defense mode or whatever, and they can't get through the rat because you just put another rat down. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And Abuela has that same strategy. You could just keep finding her, right? Like, you could find 4-cost Dolores. So on your next turn, if your opponent's like, well, great. Now if I challenge or quest, my opponent's going to be able to draw a card with that Dolores. It's pretty good. I really like that. So yeah, I think she's fantastic, right? And she's only going to get better once we have more Madrigal family cards, like in the future, right? I'm sure like maybe one a set, one every other set, or who knows, right? Who knows? More Brunos or something. I think she's fantastic. I would definitely like pick her 4 copies up of her. She's a rare. I think she's so good, right? If you love Amber, you're going to want this card. If anything, you could just keep putting her into play. Just keep finding more and more Abuelas and just keep throwing them down, right? It's 2 lore. And she survives stuff like Grab Your Sword. Very fun card. With 4 copies of her, it means you don't have to have like full copies of all of your other cards, right? Especially the uninkable cards. You could run like just a couple copies of Louisa, or a couple copies of Peppa, or a couple copies of Bruno, right? Because Abuela here is just going to be able to search them out. I love it. I love what it does for the game. I think it's fantastic. I'm a huge fan. I'm on board. Great card. Absolutely great card. Another thing I want to talk about, there's just a couple items in a location. So let's talk about Casa Madrigal first. And this is the location card for the Madrigal family. It is a 1-cost inkable amethyst card. It has a move of 1, and it has 6 willpower. Its ability is called Our Home. At the start of your turn, if you have a character here, gain 1 lore. That's pretty good, right? I really like that. That's really solid. And it's weird because it's like, you might be thinking, well, you could play, like if I'm playing Amber Amethyst, I could just play Neverland, right? The location Neverland, which is a 1-cost inkable location that also has a move of 1. It only has 4 willpower, but it gains you a lore at the start of your turn. This one does not. You need to have a character here. This one has 2 extra willpower, which means it would take more from your opponent to take it out via challenges than something like Neverland. So already a win there. I mean, you could play a turn 1 character like Pascal, or Olaf or something, and then on turn 2, you play the castle, and then move your character to the castle and then like quest with your Olaf or something, right? Then at the start of your turn, if your opponent doesn't take out your Olaf, you're going to get an extra lore. So it kind of rewards you just for, you know, playing your characters. If you're playing slightly off curve as well, you're able to get it down, or you can also get it down on like a turn where, like on turn 4, maybe you play Abuela and then you play the castle, right? So that way it kind of opens it up that if you have an extra ink on a following turn, you can move a character here, right? Or you can move 2 characters there, so that way it's guaranteed, like, you know, for you to get that lore. You could put a couple Pascals here, so you're basically gaining 3 lore, you know, at the start of your turn, basically forcing your opponent to take it out. It's only a common, but I do like it, especially in an aggressive style deck. I think it's fine. If you have extra ink during your turns, you know, you're slightly off curve or whatever, you know, I think it's fine. Okay, now outside of Amber and Amethyst and the weird steel card we have, like the one of, there are 2 Emerald cards as well, and they're both pretty good. So I included them because they are family themed, right? And we were talking about all the family cards. So first up is, of course, we don't talk about Bruno, which is a 5-cost inkable action song card. And it says return chosen character to their player's hand. Then that player discards a card at random. This card's really good. Really, really good. So like if your opponent has no cards in hand and you play this card and they have a character on the field, they would have to pick their character up and then just discard it, right? Because there's no other choice. Now, if they have like more than, you know, 1 card and then they pick a character up, random is basically however you and your opponent, you know, choose to do it. In most cases, just have your opponent like shuffle their hand a bit and then hold it out to you so that you can't see what the cards are, and then just pick one. And then your opponent can just discard that. That's the easiest way to do. Or your opponent can like lay their cards on the table face down, and then you just pick one, right? That's honestly, that's the easiest thing to do with random. I know people are like, let me assign a number, and if you have like 6 cards in hand, sure, you can roll a dice or something, but outside of that, I wouldn't. Just let your opponent pick a card, right? It's random. It's still going to be the same either way. But this is a rare, and it's a very good rare. This is a very, very good card, especially in like a discard-oriented deck. If you're able to have a character sing this, it's super good. I mean, I think Amber Emerald discard is going to be a thing, and that would mean that the 3-cost Ariel can not only search for this card, but then be able to play it and sing it on the following turn. So you can on turn 3 play Ariel, and then turn 4 you could play Prince John and have Ariel sing this card. You can get the card draw off of Prince John, and your opponent is going to lose a character off the field and then lose a card in their hand. So yeah, this is a good one. This is a card. It's so good that it makes the set 1 Lady Tremaine like almost playable, right? And stuff like Do It Again, the action card Do It Again. Yeah, you're going to want to pick this card back up. It is that good. So good. And it's also inkable, which is crazy to think about. You almost don't want to ink it because, I mean, again, not only is your opponent losing a character off the field, but then they're going to lose a card in their hand as well. And you're just losing this card. Right? You could pay I would pay 5 ink. This couldn't be a song. It could be a normal action, and it'd still be good, right? But the fact that it's a song it's insane. This is an insane card, right? Emerald's looking good. 10 out of 10 card or whatever. This is a good card. And finally, we have one last card I want to talk about. At least the time of the recording, right? And that's Vision Slab. Now Vision Slab is a 3-cost inkable item card. And it has 2 abilities. So the first one says, Danger Revealed. At the start of your turn, if an opposing character has damage, gain 1 lore. Okay, that's pretty good. Second, it's called Trapped. Damage counters can't be removed. And this is an uncommon. And also, you can't, when it says be removed, it's not just by healing, right? So like your opponent can't play Rapunzel and heal a character. It also means like that new bell that moves damage, you can't do that either. You can't move it. The damage is sticking onto a character. The downside being is like steel is still really popular, and with so many good items, you know, popping out here and there, people are going to be playing more like Benja or even like Beast or Break, the action card Break. So item hate is out there, right? But if you're able to get this to stick, your opponent can't have damaged characters, or else you're just going to gain a lore for free at the start of your turn. I like it. It's very solid. It's good, right? It's really good. You put it down and you just benefit from it. It's kind of like the signed contract we're getting in Emerald as well. It's a 2-cost inkable item where whenever any opponent plays a song, you get to draw a card. That's it. Just draw a card. And yeah, that's pretty good as well. But Madrigal family themed, right? It's a Bruno thing. I saw the movie. I like it. And gameplay wise, right, it's good, right? Gaining lore for free is good. If you can dodge the item hate, yeah, your opponent can't have damage characters on the field. So overall, I think that the Madrigal family stuff is very, very strong. I really do think. I think they'll make a very strong deck. Emerald obviously is really good we don't talk about Bruno, but I do think an Amber, Amethyst, Madrigal family deck is actually going to be surprisingly strong. Something I'm looking forward to. At the very least, I do think that there's going to be a couple cards from the family that's going to be played. Definitely the Abuela, the Julieta, I think is going to be played. Dolores, the Candle for the item for the instant lore, and Bruno, probably Bruno for returning characters to your hand. I think those are all very, very strong cards. We don't talk about Bruno. It's just absolutely insane. One of the best cards, I think, in the game. Is it targetable? Let me return to it. So you do have to target so it doesn't get past ward, right? So you have to choose. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, you can be like, hey, pick your character back up, and then discard a card. And I get it. There's cards you don't necessarily want your opponent to pick up and have them play again, like Madame Medusa or 9-cost Maleficent, or maybe even like something like the Rabbit, right? But for, most cases, yeah, have them pick the card up. They lose tempo, they lose the card draw. So it's a good card. I talk about it enough. As a whole, I like the family. I think it's a very strong theme. Good stuff here. So good stuff. But hey, thanks for listening. It means a lot. Thanks for listening to me ramble. But if I sound weird, I'm all stuffed up. It's allergy season and stuff, and I know some of you out there are like, yeah, I get it, and I'm fighting it off, right? Fighting off those allergies. But hey, again, thanks for listening. It means a lot. I hope you get some awesome cards for set 4. Can't wait to see the rest of it. Going to try to reveal some other stuff, later on once I get more time and talk about some other cards. So, but again, thanks for watching. You stay safe out there, make good decisions, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.